Level 1. The badge. You don't decide to go undercover. Undercover decides you. Your sergeant pulls you aside after a Thursday briefing. Not in the main room. Not in front of the other detectives. In the corridor, near the fire exit, where the fluorescent light flickers once every 4 seconds. You've counted. You count things. That's why they want you. He says, there's an operation. Long-term. Deep cover. We need someone who can disappear into a world and not lose themselves. He looks at you and he says that last part. You don't understand why, until much later. Much later, when you are standing in a warehouse in Guadalajara, holding a phone that belongs to a man you just watched die, and you realize he wasn't asking if you could hold on to yourself. He was asking if you were willing to let go. You are 29 years old. You have 6 years on the force. You have a commendation for the Delgado bust, a reputation for staying calm under pressure, and a facility with Spanish that came from your grandmother in a year in Oaxaca after college. You are not married. You have no children. The sergeant knows this. The operation requires it. You say yes. You will spend the next 3 years wishing you had said nothing. Level 2. The death. Before you can enter that world, you have to die out of this one. Your name is buried. Not changed. Buried. A new name is constructed over the top of it like a house built on a grave. Miguel Reyes. Born in Tijuana. Father unknown. Mother dead at 42. No siblings. No school records worth mentioning. 2 priors. Possession. Assault. Served 14 months in Baja California State Prison. Released. Disappeared. The legend, they call it. In intelligence work, a legend is not a story about a hero. A legend is a life you invent so completely that it has its own gravity, its own weight, its own past. You study Miguel Reyes the way you once studied for exams, except the penalty for forgetting a detail is not a bad grade. The penalty is a bullet. They give you 3 months of preparation. You move into a safe house in East San Diego. You stop shaving. You start sleeping irregular hours. You learn the specific slang, the specific body language, the specific way a man who has spent time in a Baja prison moves through a room, with his back to walls and his eyes on doors. You practice until the movements are automatic. Until Miguel Reyes is not a costume you put on, but a posture you inhabit. On the last night before you enter, your handler drives you to a diner on the edge of the city. You eat eggs. He drinks coffee. He says, from this point, we are not your friends. We are voices on a phone. We are a protocol. You are Miguel. Miguel does not know us. Miguel does not trust anyone. That is how Miguel survives. You pay for the eggs. You drive away. The man who drives away is not the man who drove in. Level 3. The entry. The cartel does not advertise. You don't walk up and knock on a door. You enter the way water enters a crack in stone. Slowly. Through pressure. Through patience. Through a series of small moments that build into something irreversible. The first contact is a man named Beto. Small time. Runs product through 3 neighborhoods in Chula Vista. You've been watching him for 2 weeks from a distance, understanding his rhythms, his suppliers, his weaknesses. His weakness is that he owes money to someone above him, and he's too proud to ask for help and too scared to admit the problem. You find him in a bar on a Tuesday night, and you solve his problem. Not dramatically, not with violence. You introduce him to a man your handlers have positioned specifically for this moment, who restructures the debt in exchange for a favor that Beto can actually deliver. Simple, clean, almost boring. Beto looks at you afterward the way drowning men look at rope. You don't push. You wait. You let the favor compound interest in his mind. 3 weeks later, Beto brings you to a meeting. The meeting is small, 4 men in a restaurant private room. One of them is named Cortez. He runs logistics for a distribution network that feeds up to a man named El Señor, whose real name is Aurelio Cienfuegos, and whose organization has been the DEA's primary target for 7 years. Cortez watches you all night. He says almost nothing. At the end of the evening, he shakes your hand and says, I've heard about you. You say, I've heard nothing about you. He smiles. You've said the right thing. That smile is the door opening. Level 4. The work. You learn quickly that the cartel is not what the movies taught you. It is not chaos. It is not constant violence. It is a corporation with a human resources problem and a brutal solution to that problem. Your job in those early months is transportation logistics, moving vehicles, coordinating drivers, ensuring that shipments move from point A to point B without drawing attention. The work is tedious, disciplined, and merciless about punctuality. You are never late. You solve 2 problems that previous coordinators failed to solve. You are noticed. Each night you encode what you've learned into a sequence that looks like a personal calendar on your phone. It isn't. Your handler decodes it on his end. You speak directly only once every 12 days, from a burner, for less than 4 minutes. The protocol is rigid, because the protocol is survival. What you're building, in intelligence terms, is access. Trust in this world is not given. It is earned through exposure. Exposure meaning they expose themselves to you incrementally. And with each exposure, your leaving becomes more dangerous for them, so your staying becomes more rational for everyone. It is a trap that you are building around yourself deliberately. The first time you witness violence, it is not spectacular. A driver has been skimming. Not much. Enough. 2 men take him outside. You stay at the table and finish your coffee, because Miguel Reyes would finish his coffee, and because the man across the table is watching to see what you do. You finish the coffee. You continue the conversation. You feel nothing, and the feeling nothing will take years to process, and some of it you will never process at all. Cortez promotes you after the driver incident. He says you have stillness. He says most men flinch. You didn't flinch. He doesn't know that you didn't flinch because your entire consciousness was occupied with staying in character, and there was no bandwidth love. Level 5. The elevation. 18 months in, you meet El Señor. You are not brought to him. He appears. That is how it works at this level. The mountain does not come to you, but one day you look up and realize you were standing at its base, and you don't remember beginning the climb. Aurelio Cienfuegos is 61 years old. He looks like someone's grandfather. He is soft-spoken. He collects pre-Columbian ceramics and owns 3 legitimate businesses, including a chain of pharmacies. He asks about your family. When you tell him you have none, he nods with something that looks like sympathy and might be assessment. He asks about your time in Baja. You give Miguel's answers. He listens the way a man listens when he already knows the answers, and is only checking to see if you know them too. He gives you a new role. Not logistics. Something closer. He calls it coordination. What it means is that you now move between different branches of the organization, carrying information and directives. You are, in intelligence terms, a node. You see more of the network. More of the network sees you. Both of these things are what your operation needs, and both of these things are what will eventually get Miguel Reyes killed. You know this. Your handlers know this. The operation has a window, and the window is closing, and the intelligence you are now positioned to collect is worth the risk. That is the calculation made by people in rooms far from this one. You are not in the room where the calculation is made. You are in a cartel safe house in Sonora, listening to logistics you will encrypt and transmit tonight, wearing a dead man's name. Level 6. The line. There is a moment in every deep cover operation where you reach the line. Your trainers told you about it. They described it clinically. The point at which maintaining your cover requires an action that crosses a legal or ethical threshold that your authorization does not cover. They told you what to do. You know the protocol. The protocol is, you find a reason to not be in the room. You develop a conflict. You are late. You are sick. You are elsewhere. You do not cross the line because crossing the line destroys the case, destroys you, destroys everything. The problem is that the line does not announce itself. It arrives inside a series of moments that each seem manageable, and by the time you see the line clearly, you are already standing on it. A man is brought to a meeting. He is a local official who has been cooperating with a federal investigation your organization doesn't know about yet. They know he is talking. They don't know to whom. They want the name of his contact. You are in the room because leaving would be noted. You are in the room because Miguel Reyes belongs in this room, and because 18 months of work has led to this room, and because the intelligence you've been gathering on El Señor's financial network could dismantle an organization that moves 40 tons of product a year, and the operation cannot end. Here. Level 7. The trust. 26 months in, you are El Señor's enforcer, not in the way films portray it, not someone who carries a gun and breaks knees. An enforcer, in the real language of this organization, is a man who enforces agreements, who ensures that the terms of complex multi-party arrangements are honored, who travels between cities and sits across tables from men who have reasons to cheat, and explains quietly and without drama why cheating would be a mistake. You are good at this. You are good at this because you are trained in interrogation and negotiation and the psychology of compliance, and because you have spent your entire career learning to read people, and because Miguel Reyes, the man you have become, carries a specific kind of quiet menace that you have refined over 2 years of performance and pressure. The intelligence you are now gathering is exceptional. Financial flows, supplier networks, names of officials on the payroll across 3 states, the operational structure of an organization that has survived 7 years of federal attention because it is architecturally brilliant and relentlessly adaptive. El Señor trusts you. This is not an inference. He tells you. He says, I trust few men completely. He says your name, Miguel's name, with something approaching affection. He has no children. You suspect he has told you things he has told no one else, not because you manipulated him into it, but because the loneliness of his position is absolute, and you have been, for 2 years, a consistent presence in a world where consistency means survival. You file the intelligence, you encode the names, you transmit the financial records. You are doing exactly what you were sent to do. You are also in some portion of yourself that you have not yet examined, grieving for a man you are about to destroy. Level 8, the fracture. Your cover breaks at 4 a.m. on a Wednesday. Not dramatically, a single data point. A name in the database that Cortez's security chief runs every 3 months on everyone in the inner circle. Miguel Reyes, as constructed, has a prison record from Baja California State. Records that were created by your operation, buried in the correct systems, and verified multiple times over 2 years. But one verification, 18 months ago, triggered a flag in a federal system that was cross-referenced 6 months later. And the cross-reference has now, at 4 a.m. on a Wednesday, reached a man who knows what federal flags mean. You don't know this yet. You are asleep in a hotel in Culiacan. Your handler knows. He has been watching the same systems. The call comes at 4:17 a.m. He says 3 words. Those 3 words are a code that means, leave now, do not pack, do not explain, leave now. You have practiced this. You have rehearsed the contingency. Your body executes the protocol before your mind fully catches up. Shoes, jacket, phone, out the side door, 3 blocks east on foot, a car that has been positioned for this possibility. You are in the car and moving before the men who were sent to your room arrive. You know they were sent because your handler tells you 3 minutes into the drive that Cortez's security chief made 4 phone calls in the 12 minutes between the flag appearing and your handler calling you. 4 calls. One of them was to El Señor. You think about El Señor in the back of that car. You think about what he will feel when he understands what you were. You think about whether feel is even the right word for what happens to a man when he realizes the person he trusted most was, from the very beginning, a construction built to betray him. You don't sleep for 31 hours. Level 9, the return. They debrief you for 6 weeks. A facility outside Phoenix. Clean rooms. Controlled environment. The same 4 questions asked in different combinations at different times a day by different people. Not because they don't believe you, because deep cover does things to memory and perception that have to be carefully unpacked, detail by detail, to ensure that what you're reporting is what actually happened, and not a version of what happened that 2.5 years of living as someone else has reshaped. You understand the process. You cooperate fully. You answer every question, including the ones that have no comfortable answers. On the 31st day, one of the debriefers, a woman who has said almost nothing for 6 weeks, asks you a question that is not on any protocol. She asks, "Who are you now?" You think about the question for a long time. She waits. You say, "I'm the person who came back." She writes something in her notebook. She doesn't tell you if it's the right answer. You suspect there isn't one. The operation produces 14 indictments, including Aurelio Cienfuegos and 7 of his senior organization members. The financial records you transmitted result in asset seizures across 4 countries. The DEA issues an internal commendation that you will never be permitted to display publicly. El Señor is sentenced to 41 years in a federal facility in Colorado. You are not present at the sentencing. Your handler sends you a text. It contains 1 word. The word is, done. They give you a new name. You move to a city you won't name. You find work. Something where you can be in a room with people without cataloging their exits. Some nights it's fine. Some nights you wake at 3 a.m. with Miguel's reflexes in your body, and it takes several minutes to find yourself again. The operation was a success. 14 indictments. Objectives achieved. What they don't measure is the version of you that stayed behind. You would make the same decision again. You've sat with the question for 2 years and the answer hasn't changed. But you know this. The line between becoming someone else and losing yourself is not a line you cross once. It is a line you cross every day in both directions, for the rest of your life. Somewhere tonight, a detective with 6 years on the job is being pulled aside near a fire exit. Her sergeant says, "There's an operation." She says yes. The cycle begins.